caption, if not now, then when? If not now, then when? Almost as if she was telling a certain group of people who probably had told her once upon a time in her life that Daddy say, you know, like those words resonate with you also, and they resonate with a lot of people, that they wanted to achieve certain things. They wanted to dream big. They did dream big, but they didn't go after their dreams because there were certain people who told them it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. And then they had to just have a reverse comeback, and it's if not now, then when? If I can't do it in my 20s, when am I going to do it? If I can't do it in my 30s, like if not now, then when? So this phrase is normally used to just encourage people and give them a boost and tell them act quickly. Is that what it's supposed to ultimately do, or is there more to this phrase than just to make people act quickly?
Right. So this phrase, if not now, then when, is trying to tell people that there's a thing called time, and time is given to all of us equally, but you do not know how much time you have on this planet. And majority of people think they have a lot of time to actually think they can make success happen later on in their years. But what you'll begin to see is that the biggest detractor of you achieving your goals is a thing called procrastination. And procrastination is the greatest thief of time. And which is why we have come up with this amazing phrase, if not now, then when. There are people who have put off things to say, I'll do this in 2021, and now we're in 2024, and they haven't done those things. But there are other people who say, you know what, I need to start now, irregardless of all the things that are happening in this world right now, regardless of the things that, the challenges that we're facing, regardless of the age that I am, I have to start now. So the phrase, if not now, then when, is to tell people out there that, yeah, we know procrastination. We know the greatest disease called excusatitis, which is, blaming everybody else other than you.
Right.
But we always say here on Hustle Hard, the greatest enemy to progress, which will make you not realize where you're supposed to go, is you. And if you determine that you're going to keep putting things off,
I am my greatest enemy.
You're your greatest enemy if you don't act upon what you want to do.
Okay, I am my greatest enemy if I don't act on what I want to do.
That's right.
Okay, so I mustn't be looking around enemy elsewhere. If I'm not doing anything, I mustn't blame it on anyone.
The greatest enemy everybody has is their inner self. Because their inner self is persuaded by the type of people you hang around with, the things you have been told. And all that makes you become an individual that you are. So if you look at yourself today, the greatest hindrance why you're not going where you're going today is because there are voices and there are influences and there are associations which have influenced you to be where you are today.
Right.
Now, to all the pulsars listening here on Capitalk, we have always come here to say you can do it. Choose your heart, 10 successful principles that people have made. And these things are there to ignite a fire that's in you, to delete all those things that you were told that you were not able to do before, and actually make you think that, wait a minute, if George was also told by his dad, by so many people, that he cannot do it, had he listened to all those people who told him, but it will never amount to anything. If I had listened to those people, I wouldn't be where I am today. So the greatest enemy that we have is ourselves, because we are only responsible for where we end up by the decisions we make on this planet.
Right.
Now, I was reading an amazing book, and it was telling you that people listening, when you are on your deathbed, there are going to come ideas, businesses, books, inventions, so many people's lives you could have changed. And they're going to be around your deathbed asking you, you were supposed to bring us to life. You were supposed to have acted and done something in order to transform and change the world globally. But guess what? You sat on us. You had this idea when you were 21, and you kept procrastinating, and you kept listening to the naysayers, and you never acted upon that which you wanted to do. And now look, we are not alive and transforming people's lives.
Hmm.
You know, Miles Monroe goes on to tell you that the graveyard is the richest place on planet Earth because people died with their potential. They used up only 5, 10, 15 of the potential that God had sent them here to fulfill their purpose and mandate because they did not act. And when we go back to if not now, then when? The perfect time to plant a tree to benefit the future generation is today,
That's it.
or right now.
Yeah.
The perfect time to begin a side hustle, which is what we constantly are trying to implore people here, to begin to do something that the day that comes when you get a red card, a dismissal, something happens, sickness, death, from those who you were tempering, want you to know how I'm covered. You always have something that you can begin and start.
And at times it doesn't even have to be like situations where you're given a card or a letter to say thank you for working with us. Basic conversation with people. You meet George 2024 and George is working on something and you know you should be working on the same thing or something similar or you should be doing something. 6 years down the line, we're in 2030 and George is telling you, oh, I've got a PhD in this and I've got that. Just basic conversation. You're like,
True.
oh my gosh, what was I doing with my time? Procrastinating. Just, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. And then this happened and then, you know, just seeing other people's life progressing, then you know that they really put into effect that if not now, then when.
True. And you know, it's a pity that people assume they have time. And people need to realize that, you know, especially to those who have kids who are growing up,
It's scary now.
especially to those who still haven't, you know, gathered up some funds to get a property to settle in and stay, especially to those who cannot foresee what the future holds. Now, I've always told people that robots are coming. Artificial intelligence is coming,
It's here.
and it's going to be far quicker to implement, you know, here in the first world countries. I was watching this documentary where there are some fast food outlets which have 0 human beings inside, which I've spoken about it before. Our banking sector has changed drastically. You no longer need to go to the bank. Our restaurants very soon, our cars are going to be driving themselves soon. You know, when you come think of teaching, and there's a lot of things which are going to change. Farming, drones, there's a lot. So there's a lot of things that are going to be automated.
I mean, the chalkboard has changed.
Yes.
Like, you're like, in a chalkboard. What are you talking about?
So there's a lot of things that are constantly changing, but you as an individual are still that same person from 5 years ago, and nothing has changed. You haven't developed yourself. You haven't learnt on a trade that you personally like and self-taught yourself certain things. And what's going to happen sooner than later, where you are right now, trust you me, whether you are in business, whether you are not yet in business, there's going to come something else that's going to overtake you, and then you are going to become dormant and unproductive and useless. And then reality will sink in. But before that time comes, here we are telling you, if not now, then when? It's important. You know, I constantly tell people, you only are where you are today because of the lack of information you don't have. We tell you here on Hustle Hard, success leaves clues. We tell you here on Hustle Hard that the abbreviation of poor, passing of opportunities regularly, happens to somebody who does not have insight and knowledge of opportunities presented here in Zimbabwe, here in Australia, in America, wherever you're listening to us from. That there's so many opportunities. But paunotanga kuverenga mabhuku nekunzwa how others began their journeys, and when they decided enough is enough, I need to start. They were not great when they started. They didn't know 100% of what to do when they started. But the greatest secret to getting ahead is getting started.
What if I start and then I fail? I fall hard. Like it's bad. Unzima baba. Pakaipa. and I've put in all this money. There's someone listening right now. I actually don't know, right? 2,000 and in the risk. If not now, then when? Munono risk 2,000.
Now, the worst thing one can do is to risk in something that you're not knowledgeable of.
Aish.
And number two, I've always said this.
Come on.
If you want to learn how to become a success in anything, go and hang around people who do what you want to do. And ask, how did you, I've always said this, that one of the greatest gifts I have is networking. And I purposely went and I searched for successful people in anything. It could be a successful man or woman of God. It could be a successful entrepreneur. It could be a successful athlete.
Right.
It could be, there are certain things you will hear which are summarized around discipline, perseverance, not giving up, not listening to people, working harder than everybody else. These are the key things that you will hear all these people speaking about. And when you begin your journey with whatever you want to do, you'll need to understand that, oh, I remember he was not always number one, but he kept on practicing and he decided, let me work harder on this thing. This other person went to an expo and understood, oh wait, this is how these things work.
Oh, okay.
When they came back from that expo,
So
they
there
were
we
now
go.
exposed.
Before I risk it, I must expose myself to the field that I want to risk.
It's important to know.
All right.
I remember when I started the journey with Pro Air Conditioning, I went to a refrigeration expo in South Africa, in Shanghai, in Dubai, and all these expos led me to network with the right contacts. Some of my key suppliers now are people I met at these expos. So had I remained a local guy thinking I can be able to, get contacts here and over the phone, there's a difference when you put yourself out there. Yeah, it will cost you, trust you me.
Yeah.
But that cost, when you look at it long term now, whenever I need anything from outside the country, we've met, we've shook hands, we've got some form of rapport and relationship.
Yeah.
And if ever I want things, they can be able to say, hey, send it to George. He's good for his word. So the thing is, it's important to get the exposure of what you want to do. Learn from those who've gone before you. Start small. Don't start big. I remember when I started with Pro Air, my first office was my car. Then my second office was at Robin House. My third office was at my house, in my cottage. But majority of people want to start big. They have $10,000. They want to buy an executive desk, a boardroom chair. They want to make sure at the reception, this, that. The most important thing is to get people to come and give you money.
But
And
I think
when
people
it's
like that push for perception and they don't think like what you were saying right now. That start somewhere, start small, and then as you get the money, that cycle will repeat itself.
True.
They don't want to think like that. Perception is what pushes them. And I know perception works in certain cases. It
Certainly.
does. Yeah, it definitely does. 0719-100-404 is the WhatsApp number to get in touch with George Billionaire. We're talking about, if not now, then when on Hustle Hard. We've got someone tuned in from Dubai. I want us to step out of Zimbabwe for a moment. He is in a place where it is the land of the living,
True.
Type of thing, like systems are in place. And there are also others who are tuned in from the UK, some from South Africa. I know there's a Zambian, someone in Zambia who's tuned in. People who are in areas where there's systems that are functioning to favor them to a certain extent. Obviously, if not now, then when sounds different for them. What opportunities can they look out for in these areas where systems are functioning in that manner?
I was in Dubai in December, and I remember I was talking to one of the guys who was taking us around. And I began speaking to him. This guy was from Rwanda.
Okay.
And I went on talking to him, and then, it was a good hour driving to one town to the other. And he began to tell me that he came here 3 years ago, and he was so wowed by what he saw, the infrastructure development, the cluster homes that were being, built up. And I like what he said at the end of our conversation. And I told him, you are where you are today, but trust you me, God does not put you in a place for you not to become exposed. There are so many other people who have the same exposure that you have, but they don't have the same vision that you are now having.
So
after
exposed to
our
the same
conversation.
things, but not the same vision.
So you and me, Becky, can drive into town right now,
Mhm.
and we can go and just driving. But then the person who remains poor, passing of opportunities regularly, sees nothing. They will drive, see the road, the
So
robots
poor.
and everything. But another person who sees opportunities, which is the key thing that people need to be able to see. And we are all different. I am an individual, wherever I used to go, the first thing I would go is, are the windows open? It's too hot in here. I don't like this. So automatically, chinchaunona that you identify as a problem, you are the potential solution to that. So back to this guy, he was exposed, dropping people off. I told him, listen, he got some money and he was thinking, what should I do with this money? And he had a passion for real estate because he was now a cab driver, but now he was just doing this to make ends meet. Then he said, my passion is into real estate and building. I was like, listen, why don't you, this exposure you have here in Dubai, why don't you create this exact thing that you're seeing here? Since you're working here, you would then put it back into your country and create these Airbnbs and create a different lifestyle. Because all those people you left back, they haven't seen this. And you are bringing Dubai back to your country. And he was like, wow, I never thought about that. I love construction. I can do it in my sleep. But because things are hard, I was just focused on getting money, sending back home to the family, but nothing in terms of investing. So people who are exposed, I tell all my friends all over the world that, you are blessed to be in a foreign land, in a first world country, which has everything functioning. But I always like to look back home and say, wait a minute, if I am to bring this back to third world country, this will be a real wow, and people will be so amazed by the things that you're experiencing there. But remember, you're experiencing it, but imagine what it will do. Worse off, it will create revenue for you.
That's true.
If you bring a container of
That's
X, Y, Z.
And especially with the developments that are happening in the country, people should literally just take advantage of it. Before I came to work, while you were asking why I was dressed the way I'm dressed, there's a business forum that's happening at Belarus and Zimbabwe. They are coming together to do this textile industry training, training people on how to make buses, fabrics, and anything that's got to do with factory. So I couldn't stay long enough to hear the full-on end of it, but I was just like, okay, so there's something that is happening, but pane munhu achanzwa kuti there's something that is happening. Oramba futhi kuenda. The training is free. Auskubhadhara. They're just literally teaching you how to do this thing. But someone is going to hear us speaking right now on Hustle Hard, telling them that if not now, then when, they will find an excuse for it. They will hear about, all the trainings that are happening. They will find an excuse for it. They will just keep on finding excuses for it. Now, we are not here to address those people. We are here to address the ones that actually want to put their best foot forward and say, I'm doing it now. Where are they starting from?
Right.
You mentioned don't risk in industries that you know nothing about.
True that.
Right? So this person, let's paint the person. This person has gone for training. This person has invested in themselves. This person has a little bit of something put aside. Then there's another person who's invested in themselves. They've gone for training, but they don't have money to start this thing. And we've already established on this show that to start you don't need money.
Yeah.
We've already established that. And you've spoken to us about, yes, you are going to fall. You are, right? Uchadona.
Definitely.
Get up, right?
Yeah. So, I always tell people that what's your why? What are you hungry for? And if you want a better life, if you want a different life from everybody else, you're going to definitely have to do what a lot of other people are not doing. This is the key secret to success. If you want what everybody else does not have, you have to be willing to do what everybody else is not doing. Now, if it means you do not sleep 8 hours, 10 hours like everybody else, and
Yeah.
you're working on your grind, after a certain amount of time, you're going to become the best in that specific thing. If it's tendering, if it's whatever it is, trust you me, you're not going to win them all. But the point that you are trying and not try more, those who are spoken of, rather than those who are keeping. And I've said so many times, behind the door of your greatest fears lie your greatest treasures.
That's it.
So people are always going to blame. I'll say this again and again. If you see the growth that Zimbabwe has right now, the infrastructural development, people can say this, that, and the other. Kana kumba kwenyu kusiri kudevelopwa pamwe ndiyemi, but wakatenderera kana mutaundi wakaona zvese zvokugadzirwa. There's a lot of productivity happening. There's so many businesses building warehouses, whichever, north, south, east, west, wherever you go, there's development. But the problem is with you. You are not willing to do what everybody else is not doing. And this is why you are remaining the same.
Yeah.
And last week, we were talking about if you choose what is easy, right, your life will be hard. If you choose an easy life right now, you're going to see 5-10 years down the line, everybody else who you looked at, who you were not seeing what they were doing, their life now becomes very easy, but yours will continue to be hard.
Dude.
You will continue to say, no, it's the government, it's a political party, no, it's the weather,
it's the
no,
money
it's
I'm
my
getting,
upbringing, it's my spouse, it's the school I went to, ndakakurira kumusha, you will come up with the most.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something, and I tell you, 5-10 years down the line, those who have made it and are sacrificing the immediate now will benefit later. It's like farming. You plant now, you don't see any activity happening. But he who planted is different from he who is saying, I don't know where we're going to get food. They are two different people. The one who planted can be hopeful and wait for the harvest. But the one who hasn't planted, what are you waiting for? And this is why I keep saying, had I not decided in 2012 to go the journey less travel, had I not decided to start pro air conditioning, I wouldn't be here speaking to you today or speaking to all these multitudes of people. But that is a 12-year investment and reward now. And I promise you, that time I was earning $300.
I think we're going to print a T-shirt for you.
And yeah,
I used to earn.
Imagine that. But now, where I am, what I have amassed,
Two different stories.
is a sum total result of what I chose, which was hard at the time. I said, well, with George Anomira my robot, achipa my flyers, George Ramo.
You did that personally.
Yeah, so for a season, and at times even with my wife, get it correctly. So when people would see you, Magamera my robots, Muchipa my flyer, Muna Poro de Road, Ku Eastleigh, Kuchi, people didn't understand back then this guy. And there was a lot of misconstrued people. My group which was the guys. I think George, I think that was Mira. Just had twins and things are hard. But I chose my heart. I didn't want to continue being somebody who earns $300. I wanted a better life. And this is why I keep saying, what's your why? What are you hungry for? I was hungry for the things I used to stick up on my wall when I was young. I wanted the good life. I was exposed to good schools. I would go to my friends' houses and I would speak to their parents. How did you start? And you have to know, they also started somewhere. But they made a conscious, deliberate effort to know, I can't keep living in this thing. And I always tell people that you are stepping on your treasure, but you don't realize it.
Okay, hold that thought. 7 minutes to 1 o'clock. We need to take a break. When we come back, we answer your questions to George Billionaire. Today is just something else. Like really, something else.
If you've liked the Pin Post Stand
What? It's okay, George. I don't know what we did to you today, but it's fine.
Then you're in the running to win. From Capital 100.4 FM and Real to Real, marking Capital's 7th birthday. Stand by for the grand draw on 20 February at 12 noon to select 10 listeners that will go to round 1 of the Stand Giveaway Quiz to take place on the 3rd of March, starting at 12 noon. Will your name be selected? Stay tuned to Capital 100.4 FM to find out. Capital 100.4 FM at 7. Harare's Heartbeat. Hashtag 7 and up.
Pulse with Becky K on Capital 100.4 FM.
We are back with George, a billionaire, for the final 6 minutes of the show. No questions as yet, but definitely lots of contributions. This one is from Tafadzwa Marshall. I'm listening from DRC, and I'm thinking, woo, DRC. No, he says Democratic Republic of Cheguja. I'm like, wow, it's okay. It's allowed to dream. You will be in DRC doing something soon, my brother. Tafadzwa Marshall, enjoying the show, very rich discussion. And I agree with him. The discussion today is very rich. You have given us a lot of nuggets on the show. You've given us a lot of pointers, 3 steps to these, 4 steps to whatever. But today I think you've really just brought it back to basics. You've really brought us back home, and you are like, listen, don't stand in your way. You are the one who's standing in your way. If you don't make it in life, please stop blaming anybody. You are the one who is standing in your way. 8586 sends a picture. I don't know what he's growing. I am so bad with crops. Anyway, Andy George is surely inspiring me so much. In this heat, I'm enduring it all with the hope that I will produce something. You are teaching good. So this guy is in farming, right? So he sent a picture of his field. I really want to guess what you're growing, but I'll end up saying the wrong crop. But yes, he's definitely growing something. But he's saying even in this heat, he's listening, he's tuned in, and he's trusting that he will produce something, and that you are teaching good. 2699 says, I'm learning a lot. I have a question. If I want to learn about baking and I don't have an oven, my stove doesn't have an oven, I want to buy resources, am I allowed to take a loan for a start? She wants to bake. She has a desire. I want to bake. But stove irumba, aina oven. Saka ndaenda kuma lessons baking. Ndikunobekera kupa.
Yeah, I would say that getting a loan for such won't make sense. I would rather she practices baking at a friend's house and pays part of the electricity bill to get her started until she's able to get the resources. I'm sure she must have a brother, a sister, or a relative which she has a good relationship with, where she can go and start.
Start at home.
I don't recommend Chenchulonzi loan. I don't, especially on a startup, because you have not anticipated the return on investment on your loan. A loan has to have repayments done to it, and yet you are just starting up. So I was customer and one, but ulotenga stove, start watenge some cake, and you don't have the customers. When people start to understand, for your brand to be recognized and known, it takes some time. You're not going to start selling air conditioners by the day you start posting that, hi, I'm pro air, I offer air conditioning solutions. Because there are other multiple people who are doing that. But there's a consistency. There's consistently wearing your brand, pushing it, make sure people, subconsciously, when they think of air conditioning, they think of your brand. That's what you need to do. So it's not going to happen because there are many people selling cakes, selling cars, selling gadgets, selling anything. But for you to be top of mind awareness, there's consistency, there's resilience, there's a standard of excellence on your workmanship, on your product you're selling, all those. And I always tell people the best way of marketing and getting referrals is word of mouth. Make sure that one customer is super happy. If a customer is happy, they will sneeze on others. This is how Jesus was able to, social media, make people follow him, because he would do something good for somebody and he'll say, don't go and tell anybody.
And obviously, if you tell me don't go tell nobody, I'm
Why-
telling
why
somebody.
Chilwa Shagalaka?
You cannot keep quiet.
You can't keep quiet when you taste good food, when
Yes,
you get a good
you
experience.
are the marketer of note.
The greatest market of
Like-
all times. Which
Ah,
is,
but you see, George, usawudza munhu andika kusawudza munhu alright mdara bo boys rangu
Ipapo.
ipapo
Wakutotaura kuti,
4427 says Dr. Billionaire.
Thank you.
When did we move from Uncle Billy? What happened to Uncle Billy? Now we're our
Thank you.
doctor.
I like that revelation. Whoever that is, they're very prophetic. They
All
know what's
right.
going on.
So Dr. Billionaire is very unique and different. We like his coolness. Hey, Auntie, you're cool, my guy.
Hala hala.
This is from my PPVs from the CBD. Saka, and you're cool, unique, and different. I
Yeah.
think that's what also like sets you apart from the everyday person who calls themselves a billionaire or any other. I am this, or I'm affirming to be something. You are unique and different in that manner. We have a few seconds left before we shut down the show, like 30 seconds to be exact. What's the final word for today?
Right, to everybody listening, this is going to be an amazing year. But trust you me, as again I say, you are the captain of the ship. You are responsible for where you end up. Let's make it a conscious, deliberate effort this year to associate with the right people, to make sure that we are constantly feeding ourselves with things that are going to push us to act. There are so many listeners in the world, but there are not a lot of doers.